Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special meeting regarding CATA's bylaw changes. We're here tonight to discuss the matter and answer your questions. Donc, on est ici aujourd'hui pour discuter des modifications aux règlements généraux de la CTS. Donc, on va pouvoir discuter et répondre à vos questions concernant ces modifications-là aujourd'hui. My name is Andréane McInnes. I'm a lawyer and legal counsel, and I'll be the moderator tonight. Donc, mon nom est Andréane McInnes, je suis avocate, conseillère juridique et je vais être la modératrice ce soir. Donc, on va commencer par une brève présentation par les différents présidents. Par la suite, on va pouvoir commencer à répondre à vos questions. So we'll start by a brief presentation by the different presidents, and then we'll be answering your questions. So I believe we will begin with the Atlantic provinces. So each president will have 3 minutes. Chaque président va avoir 3 minutes.
All right, good evening, everybody. I was asked just to provide a quick update as to what APATA has been doing the last little bit, year and a half, 2 years. The pandemic seems to blur. So some of the things that we've done regionally, we're uniquely situated in that we represent 4 different provinces. But some of the things that we did was coordinate with each provincial health minister and develop those region by region back to work or return to work guidelines, which differed province to province, as well as different rules within each province. So APATA led that in our area to make sure that our members knew what kind of hoops they needed to jump through, what the rules were, et cetera. And from that, we incorporated 4 new board member positions. So we expanded from 4 to 8, allowing 1 provincial rep for each province. So initially that came about because of the pandemic, but we ended up changing our makeup and maintaining that moving forward so that we have a voice from each province as well as the executive. And we've been engaging membership a variety of different ways and are coordinating to host continuing education in spring and summer of the upcoming year, pandemic notwithstanding. And we also started a working group to develop more of a complete document of bylaws and policies for our particular association because we don't have one or didn't have one. So we're working at that as well.
Thank you. So we'll head on with either Quebec or Ontario. I'm not sure. Which one's the next slide?
Québec. Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. Hello, everyone. I will speak in French for this part. If you want to know what I'm saying in English, just raise your hand and we'll translate right after. Same for the English presentation. Si vous voulez la traduction en français pour certaines des questions ou ce que les présidents qui parlent en anglais disent, vous avez juste à lever votre main, on va traduire. Donc, la CTSQ est vraiment importante là, dans les dernières années. Ça fait plus de 30 ans que la CTSQ existe. Un des plus gros projets sur lesquels on travaille, c'est l'intégration au système professionnel. D'ailleurs, le 20 octobre, il y a eu une consultation qui a été envoyée par l'Office des professions à tous les autres professionnels au Québec pour savoir comment les thérapeutes du sport du Québec vont être intégrés dans l'ordre professionnel. Donc, c'est une chose qu'on a travaillé vraiment depuis toutes les années. On travaille avec le Collège des médecins, l'Office des professions et toutes sortes d'autres professions au Québec là, pour faire avancer la thérapie du sport au Québec. Lors de la pandémie, l'année passée, vous m'avez vu souvent à l'écran faire des petites vidéos. Le gouvernement nous a demandé d'aller aider pour la vaccination, ce qu'on a fait avec brio. Le gouvernement nous a aussi demandé d'aller aider dans les CHSLD, donc pour donner un coup de main là, pour les personnes âgées qui avaient des problématiques avec la pandémie. Donc ça a été possible grâce au travail de la CTSQ qui était en contact direct avec le ministère de la Santé et des Services sociaux. On avait aussi un accès direct là, avec l'INES et l'INSPQ, donc toutes les choses qu'on a faites par rapport aux protections individuelles quand il y avait pendant la pandémie, ça a été grâce à la CTSQ. Et ça a aussi permis de garder les cliniques ouvertes avec beaucoup de restrictions, mais ça a gardé les cliniques ouvertes pendant la pandémie parce qu'on était reconnus comme des professionnels de la santé. Actuellement, on travaille sur des changements, par exemple, la prescription des radiographies, permettre aux gens de retourner après une commotion cérébrale sans avoir un diagnostic médical. On a aussi mis en place une assurance santé pour tous les membres de la CTSQ qui n'ont pas accès à ça avec leur travail. On donne des bourses annuellement aux étudiants de Concordia et à l'UQTR. Et bien sûr, on essaie de garder les membres, tout le monde ensemble avec la conférence annuelle, le gala, et on organise des séances d'éducation continue ainsi que des événements sociaux. Alors voilà.
Il y a une demande pour qu'on traduise ton discours, Phil.
Peux-tu faire nous résumer tout ça en anglais?
Yes. So translation has been asked. So in the last, first, the CTSQ has been existing for more than 30 years. And for the last 20 years, we've been working on the professional integration of the athletic therapy in Quebec. So during the last pandemic, CTSQ was really active, so the clinic could stay open. We were recognized as healthcare professionals, and with that, we came the right to vaccinate. The government asked us to help vaccinate, so a lot of our members went to vaccinate the population. We also went into the I don't know what's the name in English, but CHSLD, which is houses for elderly. And when the military was sent to help, the ATs in Quebec were sent to help these people. We're working on two other projects right now. So X-ray prescriptions by ATs and also return to play decision by ATs without the diagnostic from a physician. And we also have healthcare insurance for all members who don't have access with their employers. And we have bursaries and scholarships for students, as well as a lot of social events.
Parfait, merci. I think we'll be moving on with Ontario now.
Andy, you're muted.
Sorry, I'll start over. My name's Andy Plater, and I just wanted to say I'm pleased to be here tonight and representing my board of directors. I'm looking forward to constructive discussion on some important topics. A little update from the OITA, from what we've been working on in the past while. I guess it's no secret with the regulation that we have been working on our regulation project, our practice analysis research that we have been actively starting in as well, which is going to help define athletic therapy for the process of regulation. We have been working with some insurance companies on insurance adequacy, local companies, as well as initiating our Lumino connection, more access to research journals, our Huddle network. The pandemic was and has been very tough in Ontario. The OITA, we did do a 25% reduction in our fees for our members last year because of that, and also had some PPE buying power early on in the pandemic to try and get our members protected with supplies. We have also, through the pandemic, strengthened some relationships with the Ministry of Health and our various member of parliaments which again, we're using to try and drive athletic therapy. And we've started an ethics and diversity work as well. And we have 2 scholarships at the schools in Ontario around that. Back to my slide, and this is, I guess, the main point of our meeting tonight was related to the CATA bylaw. And we just put 3 points down here on why this was something that the OATA board of directors was not supportive of the bylaw change, and why. First, with healthcare being delivered and funded and regulated provincially and not nationally, we felt that this was going to be very tough to implement. With the Canadian Federation, the delivery, funding, and regulation of healthcare is within provincial jurisdiction, and the association structure should mirror that constitutional division of powers. Working towards regulation, it takes time, effort, and as we've been made well aware of, a lot of the players in that want to deal with provincial incorporated voices. We also feel it'll reduce the footprint, visibility, and influence of AT profession in Ontario. It's indisputable fact Ontario government, its agencies, and other provincial healthcare associations, they prefer to, or actually insist on, in some cases, talking to provincial associations that are rooted in Ontario, not only at the government level, but also with some regional organizations. I guess one example of that would be participation at the table when Roan's Law was being discussed. And we also feel that this could sever some important relationships that the OATA has established. Over the last half dozen years or so, we've developed and strengthened relationships with a number of organizations that we feel are vitally important to the future of our profession. And some of those organizations do insist on dealing with the provincial chapter, and we feel the profession would suffer some of the losses of these relationships. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll head on with Manitoba now.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nancy, and I'm the president of the MATA. So the MATA has prided itself for the last 43 years on its service to the membership. The association has built and continues to foster relationships with Manitoba Public Insurance, which is our motor vehicle insurance, the Workers' Compensation Board of Manitoba, as well as Manitoba Blue Cross. The association continues to promote athletic therapy to all provincial sport organizations at the grassroots and competitive levels as recognized and funded member of Sport Manitoba. Steps towards regulation in our province are being made with an MATA-driven committee writing and submitting our application to the government, and are now at the stage of answering government questions and providing further information to the process. It is through the work of this committee, the MATA Executive Director Lee, and the association's working relationship with other allied health professions in Manitoba, that athletic therapists were granted and recognized as a valued healthcare profession in Manitoba during the pandemic. Athletic therapists were allowed to work throughout the pandemic, meeting all necessary government requirements, and brought in as a valued member of the fight against COVID. Athletic therapists have been a part of the provincial immunization team and contact tracing teams since January of 2021. A change to our membership creates so many unknowns, and the unknowns are the concerns about who is going to attend various committee meetings that the MATA sits on within the province, who's going to be answering the questions about treating patients, who's allowed to treat with MPI and WCB, and who's going to answer the phone calls for sporting events and organizations needing coverage. As MATA currently fills and distributes med bags, as they are the contact through all our sporting organizations for medical coverage. And the current answer is we don't know how any of this is going to be impacted. I have met with the CATA, and there are no definite answers of how they can ensure that all of this continues. And currently, as it stands, to treat Manitoba Public Insurance claimants, you have to be a member of the MATA. So for Manitobans to continue, for the profession to continue to make advancements and to be recognized as an allied health profession and support its members through the advocacy and promotion of the profession directly within Manitoba is best done by the MATA.
Thank you. We'll go on with Saskatchewan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam, president of the Saskatchewan Association. First of all, thanks everyone for coming tonight and attending this. I know Sunday night, it's not always the best time for everyone, but we appreciate the interest in how the profession is regulated. So I'm going to touch on a couple things that the Saskatchewan Association has been doing. So first off, we have our website maintaining a provincial membership directory in terms of who offers which services, allowing people to find people who are practicing in their area if they'd like. We implemented the Dana Bronze Scholarship recently. So for those of you who don't know, Dana was the athletic therapist with the Humboldt Broncos who passed away in the bus crash a few years ago. So we've set up a scholarship in her name. It's being run through the SATA with her parents also involved in the process. Basically, we have a bulk sum of money that's being invested, and the money that's earned in the investment is what the scholarship is going to be every year. So this allows the scholarship to remain in perpetuity without the funds being exhausted. Our current goal, big current goal, is to establish an athletic therapy program in Saskatchewan. And we've been in discussion with the University of Regina in regards to this, and there has been some positive progress made. There is an area of interest, which will be a big thing for us provincially to help grow the profession in our area. We're also in discussion with the Workers' Compensation Board to approve ATs to treat patients within the province. So Workers' Compensation Board, different names in different areas. I think in Ontario it's WSIB, but it makes up a big chunk of clinical practice at a lot of areas in Saskatchewan, and it currently limits opportunities for ATs in a clinical setting at clinics who do a lot of that type of work because they aren't able to bill the work. So we're working to allow ATs to become incorporated into that process. And the last thing is membership to the Saskatchewan Sports Medicine and Science Council. So this organization does most of the field work that happens in Saskatchewan goes through them. They give priority to athletic therapists for field coverage, as well as level 3 sport physios. And basically this allows our members to be paid $40 an hour for field coverage and have equal opportunity to everyone to be involved in the work. It also gives our members the opportunity to teach sport first aid, sport taping courses, as well as injury prevention seminars, which are paid at the same hourly wage. So it's a good job creation opportunity for therapists in Saskatchewan. And that's it for me.
Thank you. We'll be heading on to Alberta.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Reinbold. I'm the Alberta Athletic Therapists Association president. I'm going to give you guys a brief update on what's been going on in Alberta, but mostly bring up some of the biggest concerns that I think me and my board have regarding this bylaw change. AATA has been busy the last couple of years working on more advocacy and awareness for athletic therapy in Alberta, specifically through the AATA. I think it's realistic to say that we are open to pursuing regulation in Alberta, but we realize that that's probably not that close for us. And hopefully some of the bigger provinces making steps that way will help us in that pursuit. But we continue to put money away for that and saving for that every year. But in the meantime, we focused on the awareness and member services for our members. After going through full rebranding, new website, and starting a bunch of marketing on yourfinishline.ca, members blogs, paid advertising, and all sorts of posts, we've been able to drive a lot more traffic there. And our goal this year is we're hopefully going to release our own Find a Members page and start converting some of that traffic to actual leads for our members. So I'm excited for the AAT members to get an email saying, here's a lead from the aata.ca website for somebody looking to see an athletic therapist. Also looking at obviously providing more in the member services realm, specifically tough to get courses in Alberta with our smaller membership group, and we're looking at reaching out to the membership and being more engaged and bringing in some things like that to Alberta. Some of my biggest concerns and the board biggest concerns regarding this vote is how much of the membership money is going to be potentially wasted with the way it's been rolled out, and especially the timing of the rollout. A lot of these initiatives we've been working on started almost 5 years ago. We already have budgets set, contracts signed, and we're going to be going ahead with those things regardless of what the vote is in January. At the same time, the CAPA is promising to increase services and hasn't increased dues yet. That would come later. So the regions are going to be using up reserve funds potentially this year because they might not have the same membership numbers. And the CAPA is going to be using up reserve funds because they haven't increased dues yet, but need to increase services. And really, it's us that are the same members in both associations having money wasted on both sides. If the timing was rolled out to longer and we could plan for it, it would just make more sense. I don't understand why it's now. I also worry that as a smaller region, our voice would be lessened at the national level by not having a separate organization. And I just don't see how we as a committee in the CAPA would have the same voice we do as a separate organization right now. I look forward to lots of questions. I'm happy to see so many people here.
Thank you. And we'll go on with British Columbia.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jamie Johnson, and I'm the president of ATABC. I'm really honored to not only be here representing my board, but also the members of British Columbia. As a member-driven association, I am looking out for my members. And that being said, while it's really important to understand what we have done and same things like COVID and free courses and NC prep seminars, all the things that we have been doing, which is really important. My focus has been on what will happen in BC or the repercussions of this vote for us here in BC. So we believe in neutrality. We've been looking at both the positive and negative sides here, and we released documentation or communication, I should say, to our membership that really focused on that. So the big couple is that the regional representation group, while we do believe that in theory it has some merit, we are concerned about the lack of answers to questions. So things like John had mentioned, will we still maintain the same voice? Is this regional representation group, are they voted in? All these types of, what we have to apply for funding, what does that look like? Do we get the same funding as other provinces, so on and so forth? I can also say that the other big issue that we're looking at right now is the fact that we recently, in October of 2021, looked to our members to indicate whether or not they were looking at regulation as something in our future plans. And there was 69.7% in favor of looking towards regulation. And so diving into that a little bit further, we understood that in order to apply for regulation in British Columbia, you have to be under the health profession. You have to be a health professional association under the BC Society Act. So currently, as it stands at this given time, ATABC is the only association that is registered under the BC Societies Act. CATA is not. Therefore, if this vote does go through in January, there is a potential for a risk of a regulation application when we get to that point. I will say that I am working with CATA in terms of answering questions of what that could look like. And CATA has indicated that they are exploring different ways to become a BC society, which again creates a whole list of questions. What if they can't? Will they strictly be able to? We don't know that at that point. And it just creates another list of questions. So there was a lot of risk for us here in BC and just not a lot of answers to those questions. So that is kind of a major concern moving forward. But again, I'm happy to answer as many questions as we can. And we were just looking at what this means for us moving forward. And I think it's important that everybody understands what that means for other provinces as well. So I think this is a really good opportunity for us to continue to answer those questions. Great, yeah, and that is it.
Thank you. So going forward, what we will do, we'll start with the Google form questions, so questions that we received in advance. And then we'll head on with the questions through the Q&A. Just a friendly reminder for the questions through the Q&A, we would like you to identify which association you are from, and then mention who your question is addressed to, just so we can dispatch and try to set out to answer questions from members across the country. So within the Google form, we had a couple questions that were similar. And so if your question isn't specifically answered, we believe we will answer it through another question. But if you find that you haven't had the answer you're looking for, don't hesitate, and you could ask your question again through the Q&A section. So we'll start with John and Phil. I think you have a special question that you would like to be answered. I'll just go in French first, sorry. Je suis désolée, j'ai oublié en français. Donc, on va passer à travers les questions du Google Form en premier. Il y a plusieurs questions qui ont été posées, dont quelques-unes qui étaient similaires. Donc, on ne va pas répondre à toutes les questions une par une. Si jamais vous trouvez que votre question n'a pas été, vous pensez que votre question n'a pas été répondue, n'hésitez pas à la réécrire là, dans la section des questions-réponses, Q&A, au bas de votre écran. Donc, on va commencer par les questions du Google Form. Par la suite, on va passer aux questions là, de l'Assemblée, donc par la section Q&A. Vous allez, on apprécierait là, si vous pouviez identifier l'association d'où vous provenez et à qui votre question s'adresse. Puis on va commencer là, avec John et Phil qui vont répondre à une question là, en particulier. So John, Phil.
Well, we had a question from a member in Ontario, and it was a question that was raised many times, I think. So we wanted to start with this question. Maybe, John, you can read the question, and then I'll do it in French. And then if other presidents want to answer as well, that's going to be okay.
Sure. I'll read the question as it was submitted, and then I'll answer, but I think all regional presidents will probably answer, or feel free to chime in. I'm not speaking for anyone. This was sent in directly to the regional presidents. The common post released by the Regional Association President speaks to the desire to hear from members across the country, yet for 2.5 years, the OATA has refused to constitute an AMM and eroded member rights by not allowing free and fair elections to occur over that period. They've even gone on as far as to say, should the majority of OATA members decide that the OATA should be dissolved or go in a different direction, that is fine with the current board, while they themselves have delayed the AMM process and board elections. I think we can agree that maintaining member rights is not a matter of regional politics. It is a moral and ethical obligation for all the profession to uphold. I do not think I need to comment on the optics of ignoring what's going on in Ontario while decrying the actions of the CATA as one stands shoulder to shoulder with an association that is willing to participate in a national vote, but not one of its own. I have a couple questions, if I may, and I apologize if they come across as being pointed or blunt. That is not my intention, but there simply is no other way of asking them other than cutting straight to it. My questions are as follows. Will the regional associations support member rights across the country, particularly those being violated in Ontario? Do the regional associations condone the tone, actions, and behaviors of the OATA? If you are in support of all member rights, not just those of your association, I trust that you will state as much publicly and refrain from working with the OATA until such a time as annual members meeting may be constituted. Thank you kindly for your time. I'm going to answer first, if that's okay. First of all, thank you for submitting the question. Hopefully, the answer, we can kind of give a direction of how we'd like to see the town hall go this evening. I just want to say that the CATA has made it very clear when answering any questions that this is not a vote about the OATA or what is going on in Ontario. If they change their narrative and say that this is to help the OATA members, then this would be a much different conversation we're having tonight, because we'd be arguing that they're getting rid of all regional associations in order to protect the members of just the OATA. The CATA has been very clear that this is not what this vote is about. is a vote about whether or not we should have regional associations at all across Canada. I think that our goal tonight is to hear about how this vote will affect you directly as a member and how we think it'll affect us as regions in Canada and our members. The regions and their members and their problems are going to continue to exist after this vote, regardless of which way it goes. This isn't a vote to close all the regions at the same time. So really, I hope that we can hear specifically how you think this vote will affect you as a member. As for protecting the OATA members, we as presidents actually came up with different scenarios where I think they would have had the benefit of protecting regional members. If you look at the original package that was sent out by the CATA, the president suggested that the bylaws could be changed to allow for a new member category of regional associations. And with this membership category, we could have put things in that were mandated, like having your financials provided to the CATA or hosting an AGM within a certain amount of time to maintain their good membership. We thought that the bylaw change naming specific regional associations was a step in this direction. And that's what we voted on 2 years ago at the AGM. My understanding then was that if a region did not keep up with these requirements, then they could be replaced with another region that would be willing to work together through the CATA initiatives. The members would have been protected. But as you can see in their package, nothing was done in regards to this recommendation. In fact, this is the very bylaw that they actually removed. So now there is no connection between the regions and the CATA. Us as presidents spent days away from families and work and dedicated to this project, and we feel like none of our recommendations were followed at all. Complete surprise, they voted to remove the regions entirely. I also just want to really stress that this vote will not do anything to change what is happening in any of the regional associations. The APA is still going to exist regardless of how the vote goes, and we're still going to operate like we were before. And I think the same thing is going to happen in Ontario. I also want to point out, I obviously want to hear from the Ontario members and hear what they have to say about what's going on. Also want to hear from the Ontario board. And I think that's the goal of tonight is really directly tell us how this vote will affect you personally. We don't want to hear about what's happening at the regional level with their members, because that's going to stay the same regardless of how the vote goes.
I'll go next if that's okay with my fellow people. So I do think that it's important to address this statement, and I do want to make it clear. I've made a comment to my members, and I've made a comment to the rest of the presidents in a separate meeting. I very much respect the concerns of the OATA members from what I gather and understand. That being said, I don't have the time to kind of read through all the legislative laws, so it's kind of hard to make too many comments, that being said, on either side in regards to that. That being said, I disapprove the communication that comes out of the OATA as I see it. I believe that a board of directors has a responsibility to uphold a professional appearance, and some of the communication that I have seen, I will say that I disapprove of that. I do not, from what I also have seen, I do not understand why an AMM hasn't been held yet. But that being said, like I said, I don't have the time to read the legislative law on it, so I can only comment so much on that. But I do think it's important that you hear, that Ontario members hear that, and I'm proud to say that on behalf of ATA BC. So.
I think I will just jump in for the French people. So I didn't translate the full text that Dr. Lopsiger sent us, but j'ai traduit une partie de la question, en fait les deux questions qui étaient dans son texte. Vous avez pu voir, c'est quand même une question assez grosse. La question disait les associations régionales soutiendront-elles les droits des membres partout au pays, particulièrement ceux qui sont violés en Ontario? Et l'autre question était, les associations régionales approuvent-elles le ton, les actions et les comportements de l'OATA? Donc, je vais y aller un petit peu comme John a mentionné. La CTS a été très claire lorsqu'elle a répondu aux questions qu'il ne s'agit pas d'un vote sur l'OATA. C'est vraiment un vote pour savoir si les membres sont obligés de rester membres de leur propre association régionale. Puis avec le changement qu'ils ont voté en CA, le CA de la CTS a voté que les associations régionales n'étaient plus importantes. Et donc, John a dit que ça allait continuer, les associations allaient continuer à fonctionner comme si de rien n'était, mais dans mon cas, je ne pense pas que c'est possible parce qu'on n'aura plus le financement et donc ça va être très problématique. Plusieurs associations régionales, probablement, en tout cas, je vais parler pour la CTSQ, pourraient complètement disparaître. C'est d'ailleurs mentionné dans la documentation de la CTS, celle qu'ils ont envoyée par courriel. Donc, notre objectif ce soir, c'est vraiment d'entendre tout le monde, autant les membres de OETA que CTSQ que le reste de la province, savoir comment vous voyez ça, qu'est-ce que vous pensez de ça, puis de vous montrer aussi que ça va avoir un impact majeur sur les provinces, cette décision-là. Et la CTSQ, le CIA de la CTSQ est bien sûr contre ce changement. On vous demande de voter contre là, en janvier 2022. Il faut savoir que les présidents des associations régionales, pendant 1 an et demi, sinon 2 ans, on s'est rencontrés à raison d'environ 1 fois par mois avec l'Association canadienne des thérapeutes du sport, la CTS, et que ce qui en est sorti, ce n'est vraiment pas ce qui a été voté par la CTS. D'ailleurs, tous les présidents étaient vraiment surpris de ce changement de règlement-là. Donc, voilà pour la réponse en français. I finished for the English people.
Is there any other president that would like to add anything?
The MATA board kind of reiterates what Jamie mentioned. We don't understand, nor do we have the time to understand every side, but we do respect that there are member concerns and that we also know, as we are all member-driven associations, that you are there for your members. And in a lot of cases, the tone in which the communication from the OATA is maybe not representative of their job to represent their members.
Thank you. So if there aren't any more interventions from the presidents, we will head on to answer questions from the Google form. So as I said, if you find your answer wasn't, if you think that your question wasn't answered, please feel free to add it back on the Q&A section. So we will start by a question from the British Columbia Association. So the question is, how will our BC membership with ICBC be impacted if this vote goes through to dissolve our provincial association? Currently, the language that qualifies many ATs in BC to work with this population is if you are in good standing with ATABC or BCAK. Would this be a quick change that potentially CATA could sort out with ICBC, or so there isn't a period of time where ATs are in limbo and potentially representing an improper status with ICBC? So I guess Jamie will be the best person to answer.
Yes. So it's a great question. So this is something that we're actually very currently in this moment working on. But what I can tell you at this point in time is that in order for ICBC to recognize you as a practitioner, you have to be able to practice in British Columbia. So what that means is that from what we gather at this time, it should not have impacts on your being able to treat ICBC patients. We will have to take some steps to make sure that they understand that this bylaw wouldn't exist so that you are able to practice in British Columbia. But again, we're working on that piece right now. So in theory, it shouldn't have any impact, but we will look at furthering that answer and also making sure that there won't be a delay within the transition. So that is something that we are actively looking into and speaking to ICBC right now.
Thank you. Does any other president want to add anything? Perfect. So we'll go on. A question from the Ontario Association. So would the regional association support some kind of contract MOU with the CATA that would give the CATA some ability to help provincial members if there are issues with their provincial BOD? When ATs are required to be members of a provincial association, but not the CATA, has no power to help members when issues arise, then the CATA is doing ATs a disservice by forcing us to become provincial members and then essentially abandoning us. So I guess this isn't necessarily directed to Ontario's president. So I don't know if anyone wants to hop in and answer the question.
I would jump in on that if I can. Going back again to the first question, I believed that's why the bylaw was originally put in place, is we were naming specific regions that were going to be part of the CATA. And that's how we already signed letters of intent with the CATA, and that's how we were moving forward as presidents in the regional associations. And now that that's removed, I'm not sure what the CATA's plan is. Obviously, I guess it's to not have regional membership anymore. But that was my understanding, is that's why the bylaw was originally added in, is we did have letters of intent with the CATA.
Thank you. Does any other president have something to add? No. There was a second question, again from an Ontario member. Would the idea of provincial chapters versus completely separate provincial associations work? Could chapters versus separate associations work? So I guess again, any president could answer that question.
Yeah, I can jump in. So, and I'll answer in English because the question was in English. So, like I said in my introduction, we worked with all presidents for at least 2 years on this new federation project. And by working with the CATA, we wanted to have good relationship with the CATA. So not having independent provincial association doing their own thing and not having collaboration with the national office or national board of directors or even national association. So we worked, and one of the model was that the member of the CATA would have been the provincial association. So then the member would be the whole provincial association. And if one association is not following the rules or is not doing the good thing, the CATA could choose another member, which be another provincial association. So this model was not put in place. And like John just said, we signed the contract between the provinces and the national, the CATA, to have good exchange on information. And you have to know that as soon as this vote passed by the CATA board, they cut all our data access to the members. So we don't have access to the members in our own provinces that are from the CATA, because they just got the access. So we have, in Quebec, we had a backup, so it's good for us, but any new member certifying in the last exam, we won't know who are these members. So yes, provincial chapter could work, but for regulation, you need to have a provincial association based in the province under the Provincial Act, and that's not possible with a committee, provincial committee, or a provincial chapter.
I'll just add that, so during my presentation too, I mentioned that you have to be involved with the BC Societies Act. So we, in BC, I'm only going to speak for BC, in BC, we don't know entirely if CATA can do that. So it's something that we're looking to answer. So I wouldn't say right here and now that can't happen. I would say that there's so many unanswered questions that there is a very high risk of it. So I just think that between absolutely not and maybe, we're in that maybe category, and we just don't know. And we don't know if we will know in time for the vote. So that kind of comes back into how quick this has kind of happened, is that we potentially might not be able to answer those questions with certainty. And in order for a vote to occur, you should have the yes or no blanket answers to that question. And in BC, I'm hoping to get it, but I don't know if I'm going to.
Thank you. John, anything else to add? Yes.
Yeah, as this is the question is regarding separate regional associations or having like a committee under the CATA, coming from a smaller association without having structure for what this representation or even funding looks like. I just struggle to see how we would be able to do the things in Alberta that we're doing. And we don't have any details of what that's going to look like. That'll be figured out later. So I'm very hesitant to just move forward like that.
I think in Ontario, we'd be following along with Quebec, where the regulation aspect would be really challenging under without having the regional representation with the association. If it was a committee, it would some of those larger projects with the way the healthcare works in Ontario would be near impossible, I would feel. So I think that would be much more challenging to look at a model with just the representation versus our independent corporations.
Thank you. So we'll go with the question from the Quebec Association. Donc, une question d'un membre du Québec. Donc, lors du town hall de l'ACTS, j'ai entendu Philippe répéter à plusieurs reprises que l'OPQ ne discuterait jamais avec un organisme national en ce qui concerne la création d'un ordre professionnel au Québec, étant donné que la Régie des professions est des juridictions provinciales. Est-ce un fait ou simplement son opinion? Avez-vous eu des discussions directement avec l'OPQ à ce sujet? Donc,
merci pour la question. Donc oui, c'est un fait. On a eu des discussions avec l'Office des professions à cet effet. Et dans l'histoire du Québec, malheureusement, le Québec est toujours un peu à part, mais il n'y a jamais eu d'intégration au système professionnel qui ont été négociés avec des organismes nationaux. Donc, on a eu des avis légaux là-dessus et on a eu des discussions aussi avec l'OPQ là-dessus. Donc, ce n'est pas mon opinion, c'est un fait.
Il y avait une deuxième question encore. Je suis consciente que la façon de procéder de la CTS est plutôt cavalière, mais je crois que nous sommes rendus à un point où nous devons repenser notre fédération. Telle que présentée, la position de la CTS nous affaiblirait en tant que profession, mais il y a certes de bonnes idées au travers de leurs intentions. Étant donné que chacun des deux paliers de gouvernance ont des avantages, ne sera-t-il pas le temps de redéfinir les rôles de chacun? À mon avis, il y a duplication des rôles et mandats. Est-ce que vous avez exploré cette avenue avec la CTS?
Merci pour cette excellente question. Je trouve ça vraiment intéressant et oui, je pense aussi qu'il faut redéfinir un peu les rôles de tous et chacun en termes d'association. Nous avons eu de multiples discussions avec la CTS. Nous avons eu des rencontres depuis 2 ans avec tous les présidents des associations provinciales et la CTS, et ce, au rythme d'environ 1 fois par mois. Nous avons eu des lacs à l'épaule complets, de fin de semaine complète, des heures et des heures de discussion avec la CTS. Et même la dernière journée où le vote s'est pris, le vote pour lequel on est ici aujourd'hui, la CTSQ est allée rencontrer la CTS parce qu'il y avait une rencontre du Board of Directors de la CTS. Et la CTSQ, dont moi-même et Mme Christina Grace sommes allés rencontrer le CA de la CTS pour leur expliquer un peu ce qui se passait au Québec, puis comment on pourrait régler les problématiques quand on va avoir un ordre professionnel, parce qu'à ce moment-là, nous n'aurons plus besoin d'être membres de la CTS. Donc, nous, on voulait garder un lien avec la CTS. Donc, on est allé leur présenter un plan d'action, voir un peu ce qu'ils en pensaient, sans savoir que dans la même semaine, en fait, la même journée, ils allaient voter cette chose-là. Donc, oui, on a eu des discussions. Et la question est, on veut savoir pourquoi ça a été si rapide, pourquoi ils nous ont annoncé ça le jeudi au président et le vendredi, ils l'ont annoncé aux membres. Pour nous, c'était une surprise. Donc oui, l'idée est bonne, mais il faudrait avoir des discussions avec la CTS que nous avons eues depuis 2 ans et ça a donné le vote qu'on a qui allait contrairement à tout ce que les présidents ont décidé ou voulaient aller.
Merci. Peut-être la dernière réponse, peut-être la traduire rapidement en anglais parce que ça pourrait être pertinent pour les autres provinces également.
Can you translate the question and then I'll answer? Because I don't
Yes.
have the answer in front of me.
Yeah, I'll translate. So the first question was answered was specifically regarding the Quebec members because of their reconnaissance for the professional title. But the second question was more general and could apply to any province. So basically, the person was asking if any other governance scenarios have been discussed with the CATA in terms of the roles and mandates of each governing body.
Thank you. So what I said in French was for the last 2 years, we've been meeting with all presidents, including the CATA. We had discussion. We call this project the Federation Project because we knew that something has to be different and we have to think differently for the organization. And we came with many, it was really long meetings. Every month we had a meeting. We had a lac à l'épaule. I don't know how to translate that in English, but it's like 2 weekends of 6 hours every day. So a lot of hours put into that. And we were working, believe it or not, with that external consultant, Nikki. So she was with us too. And all president came into with ideas and how we can function. And so we had discussion. And the way this came, it was really surprising to us because during the weekend that the board of the CATA decided to vote this new bylaws, the CTSQ, so myself and Christina Grace from the board of the CTSQ, we went to see the board of director of the CATA to tell them that Quebec is really close to regulation, and when that happened, we won't have to be members of the CATA or even the CTSQ. So that was a concern for us, and we wanted to keep relationship with the CATA. So we went to that meeting with a plan. So the CTSQ proposed the plan, and surprisingly, in the same day they voted this bylaw amendment or change, and they told to the president, we have a meeting on a Thursday night, and they said tomorrow the big news will go out. So we had not even a couple of hours to just know what's going on. So yes, for the short answer, so yes, we had a lot of discussion for 2 years, and our discussion were not what towards what happening in right now. So.
Merci, thank you.
Can I just add to part of that too? And
yes, sure.
Just at the end, when Phil mentioned how we were spoke to on the Thursday night, letting us know of their announcement the following day. At that time, we were also told that this is something that CATA had been working on for 18 months, which was disheartening for us presidents to hear, because in spending it was weekends in some cases, 6-hour stretches, and spending this time in this project and trying to find ways that the regions and CATA, what kind of model we could have that worked for everybody. It didn't seem like that any of it was valid when the consultation and the other part had been 18 months of work behind the scenes.
I believe John had wanted to add on.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on a little bit. I think all of us recognize that there is duplication between the regions and the CATA. I don't think anybody disputed that. And the purpose of our meetings was to try and figure out how we could optimize that for all of our members. And that's why all the presidents were there. Everybody was at every meeting. And that's what we thought we were working towards. So this was like the nuclear scenario that none of us thought was going to happen, and was they surprised us with it, just like the rest of the membership.
Thank you. We'll go on with the question from a member from the Atlantic provinces. So will the regional presidents continue to host these types of town halls, and not just in response to crisis? So I guess anyone could answer this question.
I can answer. I think it would be great. Again, like I said, the presidents were meeting once a month, and since we started these meetings, honestly, I started, I'm going to speak for myself, I started to see more communication between the provinces, and even more communication between CTSQ and CATA, and I had a lot of how can I say that, confiance, I had trust. I had a lot of trust on this, and I think this kind of town halls are really interesting. And if CTSQ stays alive after the vote, yes, I think this kind of meeting could be held. Just to mention that this is not an easy things to do, and it's also really technical. But if we set up that for a couple of, like twice a year or something like that, I think it would, for CTSQ, we would be keen to do that with the other presidents, the other chapters, for sure.
MATA would absolutely be on board with that. I feel that all the communication that we've done throughout the Federation project has been amazing in regards to keeping the regions updated of what's going on in the other regions and knowing what our needs are. And I think it definitely going forward, it was my intentions to maintain contact with all the other regional presidents going forward. And the hope is the MATA continues after this, and that would still be the hope.
And I think that, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to ask if anyone wants to add anything.
Yeah, I think what Nancy just said leads into something that's been coming up a lot as well, is why are we concerned about this? Because if it happens and we are of value, then people will just stay members. I think it's really important to kind of recognize that. I think for me, it's really important to recognize that is true. This vote does not necessarily take away the associations, and to think that it does is not correct. So yes, I recognize that completely, and this should not be about a money game. If you see value, you pay it, and that's great. And we hope that people see the value, and the members in BC continue to see a value in ATA BC, and then everything will carry on as status quo. But I also think that people need to be aware, if not enough members do pay their dues, what is the result of that? So while it's important to recognize that, yes, we could stay status quo and everything will remain the same, we do need to know what happens on the opposite sides, which is why we're talking about it so much, and why I think that it's important to know that what the other side of the coin is, and really why I'm here today.
Well, if I can just add something, because I like what Jimmy says, and I think John said it before. We also have to recognize that if the pass goes, the vote pass, now the CATA will create a new provincial committee. And now if the provincial association, the CTSQ, let's say, is still running and up, first the CATA will need more funds to operate these provincial committees, and how this committee will function aside of the CTSQ, who will do what. And if in their document, CTA clearly said that this vote, if it's a yes, could possibly be the end of the provincial association, because they will create their own provincial committees. So yes, if you, and again, also for Quebec, I can speak for Quebec, the amount of cotization, the membership dues, it's $295. So let's say the CATA raise their fee of 250, let's say, because they said they're going to raise like from the average. So now they're going to raise the CATA 250, and $300 more for the CATSQ. I'm not sure that a lot of members will see or will try to, because money is still important. So it's $300 that goes from out of their pocket. We will lose members if that goes, and that could be a problem.
I'd like to
Hey,
just add to
Adam,
what
yeah.
Jamie said as well. Sorry to jump in there, whoever was talking.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we can continue to operate if people see value in the provincial associations. It does make it challenging to budget going forward, because when it's a mandatory buy-in, you know how many members are in your region and you can plan to spend the money that you're going to be getting for sure. When it's optional, it complicates things because you don't know necessarily that because somebody chose to be a member last year that they're going to continue to be a member going forward. So it kind of handcuffs you a little bit in terms of what you can do. The other issue that I see with maintaining the provincial association with a regional chapter existing is that there's going to be a lot of duplication of those services, and the whole point of this is to eliminate duplication of services, right? So those are a couple issues that I see with that scenario.
I see Matt have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you. So just to go along with some of this, surely if the associations have value, they will continue. And I believe they do. However, the CATA has also said that it's their intent to provide any and all services that the regional associations currently do. So that is a hard sell to sign up for both associations if they're apparently doing the same thing. For members in APATA in particular, we have some of the cheapest dues. And so for us getting the same, equal, or maybe greater services, we will be paying more for that to the CATA. And to go back to the original question, in terms of will we continue to have meetings like this, I think pre-pandemic, it was a very different story to host big town halls like this, and COVID has opened up a ton of opportunities in the technology front so that we can engage membership all the time, really. It used to only happen at big national meetings, but now there is no real reason why we can't, as regional associations, host town halls, information sessions, whatever, because now we have the technology to do it. So I think there's a lot of interest from the different regions to continue that and to continue open communication so that you're getting it from the sources and maybe not filtered through a couple different lenses.
Here in British Columbia, sorry, Andy. Here in British Columbia, we have held town halls. We had one last year in regards to just educating on regulation, because it was really important to us that if we were going to send a vote for people to decide if they want to go down that route, that they can't do that without being educated about the topic. And we felt very strongly about that. And ATABC would continue down that route when there is major topics of conversation, that we educate before we vote or make a decision, which is also what relates to one of the concerns that we have here today, is that we do not want this vote to go through without being really truly educated on what you're voting on. And because there's so many unanswered questions, it's hard to be able to do that. And it's hard for me to say confidently that everybody has the appropriate information. So we do hope that we're going to continue that. We're having another town hall on this topic for BC members in January. So I don't think that the idea of town halls are going away, especially before big votes, because that's really important part of the process.
Andy, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to share just on the discussion aspect. And I think when it started with the Federation project and when we did have those meetings and there was some productive work done there, I think, yeah, going forward, should that opportunity present itself, there is a lot of value in the president's meeting regularly. There's a lot of value in what we're doing tonight. There's not a lot of what is going on in Alberta, what is going on out east, and having that technology now that that Matt spoke of, but I think it does hold a lot of value going forward, and OETA would be very supportive of that.
Thank you. We'll head on to another question from a member of the Ontario Association. The question is for all the presidents. How frequently you guys are communicating with CATA Board of Director members?
Well, I think we answered already that question. So we had many meetings. We have a committee called the Regional Provincial Committee. We call it the RPC committee, and we have several communication with the CATA.
Yep, BC is in attendance to those meetings, and we definitely communicate with CATA whenever we have questions about how the decisions in BC will affect CATA levels, for example, regulation. CATA was actually at our regulation town hall, and we did that by communicating separately outside of the regional presidents committee as well.
MATA was president at the regional presidents committee meetings. We also communicate to the CATA anytime we have questions or need a little bit more guidance in regards to how things will impact them with decisions. The MATA also was the one who reached out to the CATA to co-host the World Federation project. That was all initiated by us in Manitoba.
Yeah, Saskatchewan's the same. We've been at all those meetings. I'd say it's probably monthly that we're in touch with Melanie, the executive director, or Tyler. They have been very good to work. We've had a good working relationship with the CATA, which is partially why I was disappointed in this decision. I thought that we had been working towards something restructuring wise that was going to be a good solution long term. But even since the change, there's been good communication. We've discussed how things would look in the event that the bylaw amendment is passed by the members. Basically, we have the same goals as them. It's just we have a different way of wanting to achieve it.
Thank you. Yes, Matt, I see you. Go ahead.
Yep, APATA, same thing to echo. We're at the regional presidents meetings as well as reaching out to CATA if we have any questions. They give us a bunch of support in terms of running or helping the association members day to day. So yeah, we work typically with CATA fairly closely. And they did reach out wanting to know what our region's needs were, which I found interesting after the fact. But we haven't had a chance to have that meeting yet, but we will be.
And Ontario's in the same boat as the other regions. We are part of the RBC and have the same communication.
Perfect, thank you.
I just want to add that specifically for CTSQ, we invited all new CATA president to our board meetings. And when Melanie arrived, we invited her at our board meeting. We have a really, to be honest, when I text Tyler or even Mike Robinson before, it was almost in the minute they answered, and we set up meeting. They never said no to a meeting, and we spoke a lot. And even recently, if I text or I call Tyler, is always answering to me, so, and answering for the CTSQ questions.
BC would like to emphasize that as well. We have a very good relationship with the CATA. They have been very open and upfront, and we've been talking since this was announced and throughout the last 2 years since I've been president anyway, or a year and a half or whatever. So yeah, we have no communication or issues working with the CATA at all.
I'm just going to iterate that as well for Manitoba. Response time from the CATA has been phenomenal. If we ask questions, Tyler, Mike respond very quickly and are always willing to help when the question or the concern has a little bit more guidance that's needed. The relationship between MATA and CATA, I think, has significantly improved and hopefully will continue to go in the direction that we're going of communication being important.
Thank you. So we'll go on with another question from the association, from a member of the British Columbia Association. So I guess anyone could answer. How does this impact our ability to promote our profession in our province? It was specifically intended for BC, but I guess it'd be irrelevant if any other president would answer.
I'll just start. I think that that's been, for the most part, covered. If there's a very specific question, I think I went through that in my pre-emphasis, my earlier comments. But does this vote have an impact for ATABC to promote athletic therapy? Or I guess I'm kind of confused by the question a little bit as well. But I think for the most part, it's been covered.
Yes, I guess it would be directed to, or how would the members be impacted regarding the promotion of the profession in the province?
It may not be, I guess the answer to that is that may not be affected, right? If the regional presidents association or the group that they make, the representation group that they make, do a really good job and present and represent BC, it may, in theory, not have any implication. But I don't have the answers to that question. So I think that's hard for me to answer, but in theory it might not, but it might as well.
Well, I can speak for Quebec. I think this might have a big impact because Quebec is really different. First, we speak French. I know that CATA put a lot of effort to translating things. They hired Melanie, who was perfectly bilingual. So I thank them for that. But representing athletic therapy in a provincial like Quebec, it's really different. And if I look at what has been done in the past, maybe you recall the big national campaign that CATA did, and there were nothing like specifically tailored for the Quebec members. It's not just about language, it's about knowing the good people, talking to the government. So I think even if they do this provincial committee, this will take time to implement, and Quebec is that close to get regulated. So it's not time now to have this vote to be passed, because if we lose too many members, then the CTSQ will be weaker, and it's time now for the CTSQ to be stronger. And for us in Quebec, it could be a big problem.
Est-ce que tu voudrais répéter rapidement en français pour les membres québécois?
Oui, désolé. Donc, la question, c'était comment ce changement de règles pourrait affecter la représentation des thérapeutes du sport au Québec. Mais premièrement, c'est la langue. C'est pour ça que je répète en français. On a un programme francophone maintenant. Il y a peut-être des gens dans ce programme-là qui ne parlent pas un seul mot d'anglais. Et c'est aussi la représentation au niveau provincial. Donc, pour accéder au système professionnel, il faut négocier avec le gouvernement. Et le gouvernement ne négocie pas là, avec des entités nationales. On regarde aussi, j'ai mentionné en anglais que la CTS faisait beaucoup d'efforts pour le français. Ils ont engagé Mélanie, qui est parfaitement bilingue. Puis on les remercie pour ça. Ils ont commencé à traduire le site Internet. Mais en termes de représentation des membres, là, il n'y a pas mieux placé que la CTSQ, même s'ils vont former un comité provincial si le vote passe. Ce comité, le temps qu'il se mette en place, premièrement, il ne va pas être selon les lois du Québec, puisque ça va être selon les lois du Canada, mais même s'il se mettait en place et qu'il faisait juste de la promotion des membres, ça prenait beaucoup trop de temps pour nous. Donc, ça pourrait avoir un grand impact là, si le vote passe en janvier.
Merci. I think Adam had his hand raised.
Yes, in terms of promoting the profession specifically in one province, I think what we'll see is more of a, if the vote goes through, more of a broad national message, but we'll lose out on some of the specificity in each region. So like we've seen the national marketing campaigns before. I think that's what promotion will look like, is CATA would like to see a shared message across the country, but balancing that will likely lose some of the specific niche areas that each province has that you'd want to promote to. In terms of communication with provincial governments, obviously that's been established by a lot of the regional associations. It potentially could be something that the CATA takes over, but the transition dealing with new people may have some effect. I'm not sure to what extent that would be, but I think there still will be promotion of the profession regardless of what the decision is, but it may just look a little bit different.
Thank you. Jamie and then Andy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it does really depend on how the implementation of the regional representation group rolls out. So some of the questions that we kind of gathered, and I wanted to pull it up, so I had a list here. But so for example, like, will BC have the same access to funds as larger provinces? We don't know. We hope so, but we don't know. Will other provinces have the right to veto BC's proposals? Again, something that we don't know. Will our ability to complete initiatives be shadowed by some of the larger provinces that have more members? Again, we don't know. How do the regional representation group, how are they assigned? Is the CATA picking people? Is it voted on? If they decide that the regional representation, the province, for example, if BC members decide that the regional representation group does not have BC's best interest in mind, can they ask for removals? Again, we don't know. So yes, in theory, if it's done really well, the regional representation group will promote athletic therapy in BC. I just don't have the answers to those questions to be able to say conclusively that they're going to be able to. And until those answers are finalized, it's essentially a maybe, but hopefully, but a maybe.
Andy?
Yeah, from an OATA standpoint, I'm going to touch base on one thing Jamie mentioned, but just from an OATA standpoint, we have invested a lot of time and money on building some of these relationships and promoting the profession in our province, which, back to our initial slide, that we feel that some of those could be lost with a positive vote here. I think Jamie might have said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, but maybe 10 times in her talk, we don't know. And yeah, when this came down, we don't know. There was no proposal. There was no, how is the structure going to lay out? Is the head office or national office going to be in Ottawa for lobbying purposes? Are they hiring more staff? What is the budget here? How does this look? And the reality is we don't know, which I guess the premature nature of the announcement was maybe part of what caught off there, because there isn't a lot of particulars on how they see this running. And Jamie touched on a few of many of them, but how each region territory would play a part in that national structure in a system where we're provincially healthcare based. So there's a lot of unknowns.
Does any other president want to add anything? Perfect. So we'll now move on to the Q&A section.
I will put the answer live so people can see it, and then I will let you read it out loud and send it to the appropriate president according to when they were asked.
Okay. So do you want me to start with the first question and go through?
If you go in the Q&R question, you will see at the top, the very top, the first question.
Yeah, so it's from ATABC. This goes back to, I think it was John speaking, regarding the fact that regional chapters would continue. How would that be possible with the Jews?
So I think that was answered. We covered that pretty in depth. So I think we can move on from that.
Move on.
Perfect. So from an Ontario member, how as a member am I to justify being a part of an association that does nothing for me or the advancement of the profession in our province? So I guess it was a question related to Andy. So basically, I understand the members questioning the fact that he would still have to be a member of the regional association. I guess what are the benefits
of maintaining regional?
Yeah.
So in Ontario, I think that the goal of athletic therapy as a whole is to attain regulation and to be recognized with some of our peers that have attained that status. And it's a battle in our province from many aspects, and billing being one. And we get asked all the time when you have a patient whether they do you cover physiotherapy? And regulation is a goal, and it's something that we spend a lot of resources, a lot of time on. There's many other projects, and that's a provincial mandate for us to work towards it. It may not be in Manitoba, it may not be out east, but that's OATA, and being part of that, an OATA member that's one of the many things that we're working on. And I touched on a few of the other ones at the start of the speech, but with regulation being what it is, we need that provincial representation.
Thank you. We'll move on to another question. It's a question to all presidents from an Ontario member. Why do you feel that your associations will completely dissolve if this vote was to pass? Most of your initiatives have been great. I would love for you all to continue with those and share your ideas and successes with the rest of the nation. Can the regional chapters still not continue their great work under the general umbrella of the national body?
Yeah, I think we answered that already.
Okay.
If everybody else.
I'd just like to touch on that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Obviously, it's a challenge for us to solicit members if CATA is also going to be increasing their membership dues, because it's an additional expense that people don't need to pay, and they're stating that they're going to offer similar services. So that's the challenge of continuing to exist after this is passed, is if CATA is also going to increase their dues, then you're essentially paying twice for different groups that are saying they're going to offer you the same service. We think that there's certain services that are better dealt with from a provincial level, and that's the benefit of the regional association. It can be done nationally, but it's more difficult to do. And like in my discussion with CATA, basically what they said is like, we'd like you to continue on and be the regional chapter. So my question is like, do I maintain the provincial association and then be the chairperson of the regional committee, and what does that look like? And there's a whole bunch of confusion. We lose our ability to kind of make our own decisions. It has to go through the board. The associations can still exist, but it becomes a lot harder to plan, is the summary of that.
John, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify, because I've seen some comments in the chat and at the CATA town hall as well. It's not going to be optional to maintain your membership with the region and then not pay the increased dues. Everybody would be paying the increased dues, and we would have to try and retain our membership at the regional level. There's no and or, it's one or the other, really.
I also have something to add, and this is information that I had sent out to my members, but I think it's important. And to be honest, I don't have the answer to the question, but I do want to share the answer to this. So I did ask the CATA if it was possible to have an ATA BC board of directors and have a regional representation group, since the members in BC will be paying higher dues for the regional representation group. And in theory, if they wanted to pay ATA BC dues, they could do that. I was told that they will not allow for a regional representation group if we still have the ATA BC board of directors. So that was information that I had been told by the CATA. Now I wish I had the answer to that question, and I don't have the answer to that. So it is something that I am looking to get more information on so that I can share with my members. But I encourage you all, if that is a concern of yours, to ask your board of directors for that information, if that is something that is still confusing, because it is to me, but I'm still looking into some of those reasons why both can't exist, considering the members are paying in theory for both. But will the members want to do both since they're essentially doing the same things? That's a whole other thing. So.
Is there any other president who wants to add anything? Oh, perfect. So we'll go for a question from a member from Quebec. Donc, c'est quelqu'un qui est nouvellement gradué. J'aimerais savoir si je paye encore la cotisation à la CTSQ. Et qu'est-ce que j'aurais de plus qu'un AT qui ne la payerait pas?
Mais actuellement, il y a deux options. Là. Pour l'instant, avec la nouvelle règle que la CTS a votée, vous n'êtes pas obligé de voter, vous n'êtes pas obligé de devenir membre. Par contre, devenir membre amène beaucoup de privilèges. Et une des premières choses, c'est la représentation de la profession concernant l'intégration professionnelle à un autre professionnel. Donc, seulement les associations provinciales peuvent négocier avec le gouvernement. Donc, ça, c'est une des choses les plus importantes. Par contre, il y a d'autres projets que j'avais parlé en ouverture, là, qui est, par exemple, les assurances, qui est le changement dans ou les demandes de nouveaux actes réservés, comme par exemple prescrire des radiographies, des choses comme ça. Donc ça, c'est des choses qui, pour l'instant, n'existent pas avec la CTS puisqu'ils n'ont pas de communauté provinciale. C'est ce qu'ils veulent peut-être mettre en place. Mais c'est sûr que c'est un avantage certain d'être membre de la CTSQ ainsi que membre de la CTS.
Sens-tu le besoin de traduire ça en anglais ou c'est spécifique au Québec? Okay. Mm-hmm. We'll head on with the next question from the Manitoba Association. Has MATA determined the minimum membership number percentage to ensure that MATA can subsist and should the bylaw pass? So is there a minimum of membership that you have to maintain?
We are continuing to go through this, but per our bylaw, there would be we would have to change a bylaw because the numbers are representative. Actually, we may not. I think it's a percentage of the membership, so we probably wouldn't have to change any bylaws.
Okay.
I will also add to that to get a BC's perspective on that. The last month of my volunteer role has been looking into really answering the question how it affects us in BC. The next big chunk of mine and my board of directors time is really focusing on that question and what happens to our funds and all of that information. And once I have that, it will be sent out to the BC members. So unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that, but that's my next big chunk of time to make sure that you have that before the vote.
Go ahead, John.
I just wanted to go back to, like you talked about in the beginning, even if we don't have full membership renewal, I could say at least in Alberta, Alberta's been saving for potential regulation for many years. And the sad part of not having everyone renew is we're going to be using up those funds that we've been saving for years to put towards regulation to keep going ahead with the initiatives and projects we've already committed to. So that's how the regions are still going to, or at least the AATA is going to continue to exist regardless of the vote, because we have these saved funds. And I don't want to say they're going to be wasted, because I think membership that stays with us will see benefit from it, but they were intended to be saved for down the road for regulation day, and now those will be gone. So when regulation does come up, we're going to have to together come up with those funds. later.
Thank you. Phil?
Thank you. I'd like to echo John. So in Quebec, also we have a full-time executive director, and we have many projects going on. And the biggest one is the regulation. And yes, we also put aside money to help regulation, because regulation is really expensive, and you have to follow a guidebook. And by example, you have to have an office when you have an order. You cannot work from home. You need to have a front office with an address, and you need to have a lawyer on board. There's a list that you have to pay for. So CTSQ, for the last 20 years, we have saved money for that. But if we don't have enough member going on, we're so close that yes, we will continue to work, but we will have probably to take this part of this money to continue to. We also have contracts that are currently running, so we have to pay them. So like I want to echo John, we have to probably take into the fund we have reserved for regulation. And this fund also was reserved. So for the first years of regulation, we would reduce the dues of the member of the order, because it's really expensive to be part of a member of an order. So we have funds that are towards for the members to reduce their due for the first few years of regulation.
Thank you. We'll go on with another question. It's a question directed to Andy. The other provinces were able to cite concrete legislative and state rules, or were transparent that it's a gray area regarding the fact that it would be hard for the province for the province to go without a provincial chapter or for regulation. So could the OATA actually show that this is a fact for them, or is it an opinion? The fact that it would be hard for the province to continue without a provincial chapter?
Well, I can tell you in our application with the CKO, when we were going through regulation, that the only group that was allowed to present the application was the provincial association. The CATA was invited with the OATA's permission, and they were basically acted as a vendor because of possible use of the exam and the accreditation process and whatnot. But it was the only one that was allowed was the provincial association.
Thank you. So we will try to answer as many questions as possible. We had set out a time limit, so we'll see how it goes. So then we have another question from Quebec, a Quebec member to all presidents. So I have a comment regarding the value of the provincial committees. I feel like the value of keeping the provincial chapter, but I feel like most members don't have the slightest idea how much work the provincial chapter does to create visibility and jobs for the ATs. I hope that there could be more done to have the members understand what we have and would be losing if we lose the provincial association. So does any president want to comment? Regarding work that you have done? I guess we've been answering this question.
I think
throughout.
Yeah, I think this was answered for the most part. Okay. Unless anyone else has anything to add. I mean, I kind of went right into how it affects BC. I will say that the work that the ATA-BC Board of Directors has been quite substantial, even during a global pandemic. For those of you who don't know, athletic therapists were not in the first rounds of returning back to work or for vaccination. It was the work of the ATA-BC in order to ensure that was going to happen. While it was touch and go there for a little bit, as every other province was, there was no delay in returning to work. And that was the work of ATA-BC. Could the regional representation group have done that if it was in place during that time? Again, I don't have that answer, but I can tell you that that work, along with several other pieces of work, such as we had an NCE prep exam that went out for the first time this year. We're working on a continued ICBC relationship with insurance companies. We had our first inclusivity course this year that was free for our members, and we're just about to announce another really exciting free course for our members around contractor roles and responsibilities and accounting and things. So that's some of it. I want to touch on that because I went straight into what this means to us if it passes. I didn't kind of talk about that work a little bit, but that's just some examples of things that have happened in the last year to year and a half.
Thank you. We'll move on with another question from an Ontario member for the APATA Association. So representing multiple provinces, you understand the strength in numbers and joining forces. Would that strength not increase by national representation? Or is there concern that you'll be left behind without representation since you're a smaller group / region?
Thanks for that question. I think that it is a concern of our members. It's definitely a concern of the board that there's the potential for our voice to get lost. And you know, a common theme here is that we just don't know. We don't know what CATA's plan is in terms of how to bring. Are they going to bring on? How the structure is going to be really? Where they're going to get their members from? Is it going to be representative of each and every province? You know, or could potentially bigger provinces kind of bully or take over some projects that either don't really benefit us or could potentially go work against us. There can definitely be some strength in numbers, and having all 4 provinces together can make sense for certain tasks. However, that being said, you know, APATA, no Atlantic province is close to registration or really actively working towards it. But when I look at, say, Quebec or BC and Ontario, all of a sudden, some of the tasks that CATA does, such as testing, complaints, CEU approval, they start losing that power over those specific provinces. And so then what does that mean for our members where they've already also taken out, if the vote is a yes vote, taken out the need for provincial associations. So there's, you know, looking ahead, you know, 2 to 5 years, by breaking down the provincial associations and the regional associations now, in particular with regulation, puts up a ton of what ifs. And so while there can definitely be some benefit with certain tasks bringing together, the way this current structure is, or before the bylaw appeal, it didn't mean we couldn't do that already. You know, I could absolutely reach out to Quebec and say, hey, how did you do this? I could reach out to the CATA and say, can you give me a template for that? So there, those methods and those pathways to work together were always there. And so I think particular for the other provinces, it'll be, and for us, it'll be when regulation starts happening in these provinces and they start falling like dominoes. What does that mean for us in Atlantic Canada?
Thank you. So another question from the Manitoba Association. It's directed to all the regional associations. So do the regional associations intend to dissolve if the bylaw changes, or will they be waiting on membership numbers to make that decision?
Here in BC, we don't exactly have that answer. We have talked about it briefly. And in theory, what we're looking to probably do is that if this vote does pass, we will look at kind of getting another either town hall or a survey to see where members fall in terms of do they want to continue within a regional association, or do they want to let what we're calling a bit of a sunset period, because we won't dissolve overnight by any stretch of the imagination. It'll be, in the 1 or 2 years down the road for that to happen if we so choose it. So again, I don't have an exact answer, but we would be looking for probably the input of our members to see where they sit on the situation if we come to that point.
And in regards to how I see this, I don't think any regional chapter has the intentions of dissolving. We are all board members passionate about our profession and representing our members. And I think it would ultimately come down to the decision of the members about how they see the association moving forward. And Jamie also mentioned earlier that there may be that we can't exist based upon the way the CATA does with regional committees or however they do it. So ultimately, the answer is unknown. I don't think any of us would make any changes lightly. It would all be based upon as fast as we can gather information from CATA, from the other regions, and from more specifically our members as to how they see things moving forward for the profession.
John?
I just wanted to say it's important for everyone to realize that the members that are still active and in good standing in their region will decide what happens with the association. We're totally separate organizations. If you choose not to be an active member, you will no longer have a say in what happens to that regional association. So the members that renew and continue to be part of it will decide what happens going forward, but same thing, the ATA doesn't plan on changing anything in the near future.
Phil?
I want to echo the other president. CTSQ is negotiating with the government for regulation. So if the members are not part of CTSQ, they cannot vote for what's going to happen. There's really specific questions that the Office des Professions is asking to CTSQ, is talking to CTSQ. The CTSQ negotiated the document that's going to consultation. The deadline is June 2022. And after that, we will be fixed on where we're going. And this has been done by the CTSQ. Now, the CTSQ will have to do more work for this regulation process. And the members who are not members anymore of the CTSQ, they won't have a say about the negotiation because they're not part of the CTSQ, so they will not be able to come to AGMs and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens after the vote, but after in our process, like someone said, some president said, it's not overnight that the CTSQ will disappear, but in the next 2 years, we will have regulation in Quebec. It's not an if. This is, and the CATA knows that too. It's in the document. The document of Office des Professions says in their text, Quebec will get regulated. Athletic therapists in Quebec will get regulated. So if the members leave the CTSQ, it will the money left for regulation will be used, but they will have less input in what could be next for them, because after, if they want to work and we are regulated, they will have to be member of the order, and all the negotiation would have been done by the CTSQ.
Thank you. We'll move on to another question. So is there not a legal reason that CATA cannot mandate membership to a completely separate association? Since the provincial associations are separate entities, are there any repercussions in the event of a lawsuit? Not sure who would want to answer. Matt, go ahead.
I think with this, it's not that the CATA has said that you can't be a member of one of the provincial associations. They just say that you don't have to be a member in order to be a member in good standing with the CATA. So at this point, them changing that bylaw doesn't say that you can't be a member of APATA or OATA or whatever. It just means that you don't have to be. Now, that being said, with what Jamie had said earlier, there's some debate on whether, if there remains to be a provincial association, if how that will interact with the CATA, if at all. So I think that clears that up. It's not that the CATA has said that you can't be, but that you don't have to be.
Thank you. Does anyone want to add anything? Perfect. We'll go on to the next question. So for all regional presidents, what about the implication of the CATA ordering CATACs to belong to associations that may not be offering value or upholding their responsibilities to their members? Do you think the CATA is obliged to enforce mandatory membership?
I will start because I think that comes down to what we've been going on with the OATA. How do I want to word this? Sorry. I think the best way to think of it is that should the CATA mandate regional associations, the answer is, especially when they're not doing anything, or the members feel like they're not doing anything, the answer is, I think, potentially no. I'm just going back, so I'm just catching my words here, but hold on a second. The CATA does not need to mandate membership into a provincial association. If you feel like your provincial association is not working on your rights, you have, in theory, every right to switch out that board of directors. So I like to hope that my members see the value in me and they continue on with that thought process. But I can't, if they don't, they should have the right to switch that out. And I'm only speaking on behalf of ATABC. If they want to do that, they should have the right to be able to do that. And not having, I'm providing my members a right to be able to say loud that they want a switch in their representation. And I think that's important that all members in every province have that ability to do that.
Thank you. Phil, go ahead.
Thank you. I think that if your association is not offering you value or doesn't do its responsibilities, I think it's your responsibility as a member to speak up. And everything is written in our bylaws, either the CATA bylaws or I will speak for the CTSQ bylaws. And we have, as a board, to maintain our responsibilities and give the values that the members are paying for. And if they don't do that, there's process that can be put in places to put that back in order. So I think it's also the responsibility of the members of every association, if you're not happy with your association for any reason, to contact them and to use what's written in your bylaws to fix that.
John?
I also just again wanted to point out that my understanding in the Federation project is that this is what we were trying to develop as a process where the regions would be approved by the CATA and its members. And if they weren't upholding their end of the deal, that's what could be changed. And voting to remove this bylaw got rid of that. So now there is no link between the CATA and any regional association right now. So I still hope that we can come up with a better structure where we can guarantee that all members are protected, but removing the bylaw completely just got rid of any start of that.
Thank you.
I'll just add. Sorry.
Yep, go ahead, Adam.
So if the bylaw amendment is rejected by the members, meaning we go back to the way things were previously, at least from a Saskatchewan perspective, I would still like to proceed with where we were in the Federation project and look at having provincial associations become members of the CATA. Therefore, there's an avenue for people to take if a situation arises where the provincial organization is not serving its members' needs effectively. That being said, this the way they've done it doesn't allow for us to do that. It's which I find a little bit disappointing. But if things go back to the way they used to be, then we're still willing to work towards, at least from Saskatchewan's perspective, work towards setting this up so that something like this doesn't happen in the future.
Andy?
I'll just add with the current structure, because I think it's everyone's got a little voice on it, but I think it was directed at the OETA. At our AMM in April 2020, we had 3 positions and we had 3 people run. So there are claims. So like if people want to make a change in mid-January here, we have 4 positions up. The bylaws, as Phil said, they're all in place. Welcome to run. We can use help if we don't like the way things are currently going, that we do have the process there. But we had 3 positions and 3 run, and we have 4 coming up in January.
I think, I don't want to beat around the bush. I'm going to be honest. I think what they're asking is that they want to run, and you have to hold an AMM to be able to do that. So I think maybe explaining to the rest of the country, I'm getting lots of questions from my BC members about trying to understand whether or not why OETA has not held an AMM, and maybe saying that reasoning to the members of the rest of Canada would help answer that question. I think that's probably what they're trying to get at.
I can say the AMM has been announced for January 16th. And I will the only other comment I'm going to make on it is that there is some current legal involved, but through our legal counsel and our governance, that we have met all the Ontario Corporations Act requirements, and we have not broke any of them, and we haven't announced our date.
Thank you. So we'll go with another question. It's from an Ontario member. So considering that healthcare is provincially regulated, if a college or an order is established on the region, that the college is in control of those that can provide the service of athletic therapy, not the association. A college and order's mandate is to protect the public and not the members. Is it up to the associations to protect and promote the members, not the college? How does the CATA and the other association plan to account to that? So from what I understand is regarding a professional order versus the association, who would protect who, and how would CATA and the association plan to regulate and account to that?
Well,
Sorry.
Oh,
Matt has.
yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, Matt, and Phil, you'll be next.
I think that it is the role of an association typically to advocate on behalf of its members, and whether that's through advertising, training, whatever it might be, and a college, regulatory college, is to protect the public. So as things start to become regulated, it does provide a kind of sticky situation for the CATA because right now they do both. They have processes in place to protect the public, but by definition, they're also there to advocate for its members. So an order or a regulatory body, it's their job really just to protect the public and make sure that the public is safe. And it's the role of the association to advocate for its members. So whether that's a provincial association or a national association, that's kind of what it's supposed to do. And we would have, I guess, a conflict of interest then at the national level.
Phil, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So like I said before, Quebec is really close to regulation. So this is a topic that I know really well. And what has been said is really true. So the colleges called order in Quebec, they're there to protect the public. But right now, athletic therapy is not regulated in Canada. It's self-regulated, and CATA just runs everything and decided that it's self-regulated. So CATA owns the title, but they don't own the profession. So when a province like Quebec will be regulated, the scope of practice will be defined by the order or the college. And then association are there to promote the profession or to protect the members. So yes, when that happens, that can be a problem, because now CATA will have some provinces that are regulated and some others that are not. And that's what we talked in the federation project. We even had a working group working specifically on regulation and specifically on a model that was showing what if some provinces get regulated while others are not, and what would be the role of CATA in that provinces, and what would be the role of the provincial association, because CTSQ will have a different role when Quebec gets regulated. So yes, it's important, but this decision happened overnight, even if at least the vote happened overnight, even if the CATA said they worked on it for 18 months, because when we talked about all the provinces, that was not what we expected. So I don't see specifically the plan from CATA. I don't see what this provincial committee would do. I don't see, if we take time to make this plan, 1 year, 2 years, I don't know, we could have a better plan to see or to look at, and maybe we wouldn't need be tonight, a Sunday night, to talk about this, because the CATA would have provided us, hey, that's where we're going, we have a plan. And so yes, sorry for my long answer.
Thank you. Would any other president want to add anything? No? I'll go on with another question. Is it possible that the current regional chapters and the CATA regional committees work at odds of each other and cause confusion within the province? So this is a concerned member. If anyone could jump in and answer.
Go ahead, John. I'll go after.
I was just going to say that with the removal of this bylaw, that is our only link between the CATA and the regions. So I assume, yes, we'll be working in direct competition with each other, but there's not even going to be a way to communicate between those two parties. So I don't see how we wouldn't be working on the same initiatives. And again, I don't see the regions just going away right away.
Yeah, I'll also add, I don't have a clear answer onto whether or not, if a province decides that they want to keep a regional association, such as ATA-BC, if the CATA will allow for a regional representation group, if that occurs. So I said it before, and I'll just say it again, that I was told that the CATA will not have a regional representation group if the association remains the same, unless they've outwardly said that they're going through a sunset period, in which that time they would allow for that. So I don't have an answer to why that is, but that's what I was told.
Go ahead, Matt.
I think to go along with that, so again, with APATA in particular, and being a smaller region, you potentially were losing some autonomy there. So what we might view as important projects in one province or in one region, the CATA regional group might not view that, or the CATA executive might not view that as a priority. And so it's possible that a regional association is working hard towards one project, but the CATA membership or regional board is working towards another that has been identified by exec, or there's just so many unknown variables there in terms of how that structure will happen and how each individual region will be addressed. So there's definitely potential there for overlap. There's potential for conflict or pulling in separate directions, but in theory, we could potentially be pulling in the same direction as well.
Adam, you had your hand raised.
Sorry, I clicked it close too early. Yeah, whatever the decision is, I don't intend to have two organizations in Saskatchewan existing in conflict. I think I'll leave it up to our members whether they see benefit in maintaining the SATA in its current form. But I intend to work within the system that's established after the vote, whether that's as a committee for Saskatchewan or or independently as the SATA.
I also intend on that too.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
say,
No, go
Manitoba-
ahead. Sorry.
Manitoba intends to continue dialogue with the CATA regardless of the vote going forward. But I think it's also, we don't know what these regional committees will continue to take on. There's lots of little things that happen within their current associations that may be deemed not appropriate or not necessary to take on, but have a longer implication to the rest of the members and not realizing it. For example, MATA is currently building our presence in the field. And I know that sounds really weird given that's what our profession kind of started at, but in Manitoba, outside of working with our professional sports teams, you're not going to have a career as a field athletic therapist. The MATA is really trying to grow that. And that's in regards to being the link to all of our sport organizations and ensuring that they do, when they request, they do get medical coverage and that they have equipment appropriate for all of that. Is someone who sits on that regional committee going to take this on, or is that going to be deemed not necessary by that new committee? We don't know, but there are all those little things that are unknowns and we don't know how they'll be impacted going forward.
Thank you. So we'll go on with the two last questions. So it's a question from a member of Quebec. Did the CATA try to integrate the regional chapters as committees before moving forward with this proposal? So has there been a test drive?
I don't want to answer for a CATA because I don't have the answer, but from my understanding, it's a no. So the first time I heard about this decision was on a Thursday night before they send the e-blast to all members the next day. So I don't think they did a test drive at some sort.
I will also add that the first time BC had heard about this was the night before as well. And then right after that, within that next week, we were asked to work with the CATA on how this could impact each individual provinces. I would like to say that I hoped it would have been the other way around. So that conversation to the provinces about how this could affect them would have happened before the announcement of the removal, so that this would have been a little bit more smoother. But yeah, we found out the day before as well.
And final question. So to all presidents, why do you think it's been so difficult to promote the profession of athletic therapy and for us to be recognized like physios to the public? And if CATA were to win the vote, do you think the profession would be recognized more across Canada?
I think it's a really hard question to finish. It's really hard to answer because first, because in the question they talk about physios. In Quebec, there's in the order of physio, there's more than 7,000 members, and we are 450. So right there's a big difference because with that many members, 7,000 members, you have more visibility because you have more money also to show and to do national campaigns or even provincial campaigns. In the last years, I would say last 5 to 10 years in Quebec, athletic therapists were really recognized. We are now in the official documents. People recognize us. We're in the medias when there's problems, and we're working on that. So yes, we're not as known as physios, but we start to be recognized, and we're working hard for that. But it's a hard question because I think numbers first, and then working with the government at the provincial level.
Thank you. So Matt, then Adam, and Andy. Go ahead.
I definitely think that there's benefit to both. I don't know of any example where a national body got a provincial area regulated in any healthcare field, that always happens at the provincial level through a dedicated provincial association. So from just the let's get regulated and increase those initiatives in a province, that's going to be from a hardworking association and an association with an active member base. Now, having a national organization and association that helps unify some of those messages and promote some things on a national level, absolutely some benefit to that. Lots of benefit to that. But when you look at just, how can we move our profession forward in our province, it's got to happen at both ends. There's got to be that strong provincial push and presence, as well as a strong kind of national identity and those national initiatives.
Thank you, Adam.
Sorry, my mute button wasn't going off. Yeah, in terms of growing, like making the profession more recognizable, numbers is the biggest thing for us. And our profession is growing. Talk to the schools that are running athletic therapy programs, they're getting a ton of applicants every year. There's people that are interested in working in the profession, but we're still a small profession. As the numbers grow up, recognition of the profession is going to go along with it, regardless of the structure. In terms of whether it's better, like if you're asking me to tell you which system is going to make the profession recognized more, I think that both are going to get you there. Like you have people that are interested in furthering the profession. That's why you get on these boards and committees. It's going to look differently. It just comes down to the structure that you think serves you better and offers you more benefits. And obviously we've leaned towards the regions having a lot of services that we offer that we think that we can do a better job of than the national board. But I think that regardless of the decision, it's the profession is going to grow and it's going to continue to get more recognition.
Andy.
I agree with Phil just at the start. It is a difficult question to ask on a national scene. And I'll echo Matt's comment, and I did some reading, and I would love if a member does have an answer to this question, but I wasn't able to find any unregulated healthcare profession that achieved regulation through a federal project. So with that in mind, I think that from speaking from Ontario's perspective, in being recognized with our peers and of course the numbers, the insurance, we're in a unique situation in Ontario where we may have a fire hall district in one region covers athletic therapy, yet an hour away they don't. So growing the profession that way, it has been the goal with the regulation aspect, and I think can be recognized with our peers with healthcare. Again, just it being recognized provincially, I'm not sure how we attain that at a national level. Having said that, I do think some of the work we did in the Federation project, when we were trying to define, what would happen at the provincial level and what could happen at the national level to best benefit each member in our association. And I thought that there was some good dialogue there, and I still think that that's hopefully the way that we go, and where we get back to exploring what is national priorities, what are provincial priorities, and grow the profession that way.
Thank you. John, you had your hand raised. Do you still want to comment?
I think everybody else covered it.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to stop the questions and answers here. I'll invite the presidents to give our final word. So we'll go from east to west once again. So a quick final word. So we'll start with the Atlantic provinces.
Well, I'll start off by saying thanks to everybody for coming out to the meeting and for hanging around for so long. For APATA members, we will be hosting our own town halls to partially to educate and partially to get kind of your thoughts and the board's dedicated to kind of going with what the membership wants. So We just want to try to get as much information from the CATA that we can and into your hands. And we look forward to kind of continued participation from members across the country.
Thank you. Quebec now.
Merci beaucoup à tout le monde d'avoir participé à cette séance de questions. On a vu qu'il y avait vraiment beaucoup de monde là, qui ont participé, c'est très intéressant. Pour ce qui est du Québec, restez attentifs, il va y avoir des annonces qui vont être faites pour expliquer un peu notre plan de match. On a aussi l'Assemblée générale extraordinaire là, qui est en décembre, à la mi-décembre, qui va être très importante pour vous en termes d'assistance parce qu'il va y avoir des propositions à voter. Et la CTSQ, si vous voulez renouveler vos cotisations, c'est le temps de le faire. Là. La période de cotisation est ouverte pour encourager la CTSQ. Et on va vous soutenir au courant là, dans les prochaines semaines. Bonne soirée.
Merci. We'll go with Ontario now.
I'd like to thank, well, first off, all the members that took time out today to come on the call. I do think it's important that we are hearing from the other regions. I'd like to thank all the regional presidents again for committing to this and working together on this, and a special to Phil for using his resources, and Eric to host the town hall tonight using his technology and platform they had available. So thank you to all.
Thank you. We'll be going on with the Manitoba.
Thank you to everyone for taking your time out to attend tonight. It is really nice to see engagement and know that there are lots of questions, and I know we haven't been able to provide every answer. I know I will be going back to my board and to my province to do some more digging to try and find answers. I hope to continue conversation with the CATA to help find answers to some of these questions. And I look forward to representing my membership and our profession.
Thank you. Moving on to Saskatchewan.
I'll keep it short. Just thanks everyone for attending. We appreciate your interest, and I hope you've heard both sides of the issue and make an informed vote in January.
Thank you, Alberta.
Again, thanks to everyone for coming. I just wanted to, hopefully everyone realized that we were all surprised by this. And if anything, the vote has brought the regional presidents even closer. I think we've talked even more than we have over the last 2 years. And I hope we just have a chance to continue building on how we can all work together instead of being split apart like this. And I just hope that we can take time to figure it out and do it the right way instead of rushing into it.
Okay, I assume it's me.
Yes, last but not least.
Yes. So I just want to emphasize that BC, we're coming in from a very neutral perspective. We are gathering all the information that we possibly can to make sure that everybody who votes is as educated as possible. And we're going to continue to do that through the next month or two. I get this question a lot. People asking me what I think and how they should vote, and I can't answer that. I think every single member needs to really gather as much information as they can, decide what is important to them. Does this vote impact that importance to them, and make a decision? And that every single person needs to do that internally for themselves and what's important to them. And we need to get many people out. This is a big change for athletic therapy in Canada. And I think that getting as many people vocal and voting at the AMM is going to be a really important move. So I encourage you guys to make sure you're educated, make sure you look at it from every perspective that you possibly can, not just your provinces, but every other province, and decide what is important to you and make that vote. That would be my only advice to you. And I hope to see you guys all on the AMM. And I look forward to progressing athletic therapy, no matter which way this vote goes. And we need to work together in order to be able to do that. we're too small of a profession to be divided amongst the provinces. So whatever happens, I really hope that we continue to work together and continue to grow what we are all super passionate about doing. So thank you all for having me. I guess I'll let someone else wrap it up. I think Phil, you were going to, or someone was going to, but thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So so Phil, were you going to wrap up?
No, I thought you were doing it as a
I
moderator.
could do it. I could do it. I would just like to thank all the participants. You were almost 300 today, so I think it's a success, and I think we've answered most of the questions. And if you still have any, don't hesitate. From what I understand, your presidents will willingly try to find time to answer those questions. So thank you.